to step 3 of your curriculum development project. Now, all professional programs, whether it's in K through 12 physical education, coaching, strength and conditioning, or fitness, are strengthened or weakened by some type of policy or resource. And the expectation for this assignment is to develop an extensive list of all the policies and resources that you can think of that are going to have some type of effect on your program one way or another. So ask yourself about all of the things that have some sort of impact on your program, whether it's stakeholders, boosters, state developed guidelines, or even the company that provides uniforms or merchandise. There's something that either your program can't survive without or something that can be identified as a hindrance to your program, but it's been there for a reason. So in this step, you'll list and explain as many of these as you can think of. For example, a high school track program. This is either supported or limited by equipment and facilities. If a school doesn't have a long jump pit, for example, and I know some schools that don't, you really can't have a viable long jump program unless you then make arrangements to travel to a different location and practice, and that's going to bring with it a whole host of other issues. Funding is always an issue. Many programs utilize outdated or broken equipment, and they don't have the monetary resources to help replace and improve the program. For some school PE programs, scheduling or instructional time is an issue. Picture days, earthquake drills, assemblies, all of these things take place during physical education instructional time. And it's interesting to note that although physical education is the only subject with mandated instructional time, it's easily overlooked when teachers are not utilizing that time for instruction. So, things such as instructional time, student IEPs, mainstreaming, grading, discipline policies, medical excuses, equipment, and any other policy or resource that you can think of will have some type of impact on your program. And if you've noticed, I gave you a small list of some things that you should include in your step 3. But consider everything. Policies can also include professional documentation, mandates or guidelines, and these include professional standards, codes of ethics, behavioral expectations, medical policies, whether how medical excuses are handled in the K through 12 setting or the expectation for physicals for the athlete, and any other professional duties or legal documentation. Resources can also include anything or anyone that provides additional support, whether it's time or services towards your program. And this can include textbooks, journals, the administrators, athletic directors, equipment, facilities, and even opportunities for professional development. Now, once you've identified the policies and resources, you will develop a description and an explanation of each one, thoroughly describing how it impacts or affects your program. So within your response, be sure that you address the guiding questions thoughtfully and carefully. For example, what limitations are there for your program if you don't have what you need? How does the policy or resource negatively affect your program? What benefits and additional support can those policies or resources offer to your program? How is your program supported and improved by those benefits? And how does the policy or resource guide the program and contribute to the sustainability of the overall program? You may need to check with your administrator, your school, your district, even human resources to find out if there are any additional policies in place that will have an impact on your program. So when you complete this section, first thing you want to do is identify the name of your program, and this should be used as a heading. Center it on the top of the page, but not in bold. Next, identify the policy or resources that you're going to be discussing. This is centered in bold on the page. And then also, I want you to include the name of the group member who wrote the information for the policy or resource being addressed. And this is important because you are primarily being assessed individually for the sections that you've developed. Next, provide a clear, complete, and comprehensive description or explanation of the policy or resources addressing all of the guiding questions. For example, if you are listing financial funding as a resource, don't simply state that you need money to purchase things. Identify how the funds can and will be used, what types of things you plan to purchase, and how those purchase items are going to be used. Justify the need for the funding and explain how you are unable to effectively do your job without the necessary funding. How will your students or your athletes and your program be hurt if you don't have the funding that you need? And make sure that it is a clear need. You're not just developing a wish list, for example, but you're describing how these things will have a positive or adverse effect on your program. So approach it from both points of view. What can you do with more money and what will suffer without it? Now, the text does a nice job of explaining this process as well. So be sure that you read that completely before beginning to develop your final step 3. Also, read through the written assignment guidelines carefully and compare what you have to the rubric that's provided there. Don't simply state or cite what the text indicates. It only provides a few suggestions. Determine what policies and resources are unique and specific to your program, and there should be a minimum of 14 policies and resources combined. So within a full curriculum, you would have more than this, but for this assignment, we're going to limit it to between 14 and 20, which is typical. And that should do it for this section. Remember, if you run into a problem or have any questions, feel free to contact me. Take care, and I will see you online.